I'm not really the kind of person who believes in creepy stories. I don't watch horror movies, not because I'm scared of them, but because I think most of them are dumb. I'm a hotel night auditor, so basically, I work the overnight shift at a small, older hotel just off a rural highway in Tennessee. It's not one of those chain hotels. It's independently owned, kinda outdated, but we get a decent amount of guests, usually truckers, traveling salespeople, the occasional family passing through. I've been working this job for almost 2 years now. Same shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Most nights are quiet. I sit at the front desk, do paperwork, fold towels, maybe watch something on my tablet with one ear open for the front door chime. The place locks up after midnight. You need a key card or the bell to get in. Like I said, usually boring. Usually, this happened just over a month ago. It was a Wednesday night, technically Thursday morning. We had like 4 guests checked in, which is low even for a weeknight. Around 2:15 a.m., I was sitting at the desk, halfway through some emails, when I heard the front bell ring. But the thing is, I never saw anyone come in. There's a little chime when the front door opens. It's loud, mechanical. Then the actual desk bell is this small silver thing guests can tap if I'm not right there. But I'd been sitting right there. I never heard the door, just the bell. At first I thought maybe it was a glitch or maybe someone came in real quiet. So I looked at the camera feed. We've got one old black and white monitor that cycles through like 4 angles. Lobby, side hallway, back entrance. Parking lot. Nobody was on the screen. Parking lot was empty. Lobby was empty. But the bell had rung. I sat there a while, just watching. Then something strange caught my eye. On the monitor, room 104's light flickered on. I remember that specifically because 104 is the room closest to the front desk, and it hadn't been rented out that night. I double-checked the sheet. Yeah, empty. So now I'm thinking maybe I messed up. Maybe someone checked in late and I didn't log it properly. It happens. Not often, but it happens. I picked up the house phone and dialed 104, just to see if anyone answered. It rang once, twice. Then it clicked, like someone picked up, but there was no voice. Just this quiet, muffled breathing, like too close to the receiver, like the person didn't know how to talk on a phone. I hung up. Now I was feeling weird, like off-kilter. I stood up, walked around the counter, and made my way toward room 104. The hallway was totally still, the kind of quiet where you can hear the hum of the ice machine 2 halls over. The door to 104 was shut and no light showed under the crack. I knocked, no answer. Then from behind the door, I heard movement. Slow footsteps. Then something that sounded like whispering. I said, "Hello? This room isn't supposed to be occupied." I knocked again, firmer. "If someone's in there, I need you to come to the desk." Nothing. I went back, checked the spare keys, and grabbed the one for 104. When I returned to the room, the hallway was still empty. I hesitated for a second, then unlocked the door and opened it slowly. Empty, lights off. Bed made. Air smelled like stale linens and disinfectant. Just like it should. I stepped in, turned on the bedside lamp, still empty. I checked the bathroom, shower curtain pulled back, nothing there. Closet, empty, but the weirdest part? The phone was off the hook, sitting in the middle of the bed. I stood there for a solid minute, just listening, trying to make sense of it. I put the phone back on the receiver and closed the door behind me. Back at the front desk, I rewound the security footage. I watched from 1:50 to 2:30. No one entered the front door. No one walked down the hallway to 104. But right at 2:16, the camera on that hallway glitched, just for 1 second, like a quick flicker. Then the feed resumed and the light above room 104 was suddenly on. Now I was really starting to freak out. I sat there, watching the clock. 2:58. 3:12. Nothing happened. Until 3:24. The phone rang. I jumped. I remember literally saying nope out loud before answering. "Front desk," I said, trying to sound normal. There was a pause. Then a voice said, real low, "You shouldn't have opened the door." It wasn't threatening. It wasn't angry. It was like someone telling you a fact, like the sky is blue. You shouldn't have opened the door. I hung up, heart pounding, checked the caller ID. Internal, room 104. I grabbed my cell and called the hotel manager. Woke him up, told him something was going on and I didn't feel safe. He said to lock the front doors, stay behind the counter, and he'd head over. I was pacing now, watching the cameras like a hawk. At 3:37, the hallway camera glitched again, and when the feed came back, the door to 104 was wide open. I didn't even hear it open. I didn't hear a latch or a creak or anything, but there it was. Just open. My manager got there around 3:50. I showed him the footage. We went to 104 together. The door was still open, still empty, still nothing in there. He looked kind of freaked out but tried to play it cool. Said maybe it was a wiring issue, that the call was a prank or a crossed line. But here's the part I haven't told anyone. When we left the room, I shut the door behind me and made sure it clicked shut. But when I glanced back over my shoulder just before we turned the corner, I swear to God, the door was cracked open again. Not fully, just a sliver, like someone was watching. I haven't worked a night shift since then, swapped shifts with a coworker, took some vacation days. I even applied to a different hotel across town. Haven't heard anything yet, but last night, just before I went to bed, my personal cell phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I played it back this morning. It was just breathing. And then, "You really shouldn't have opened the door." This happened to me last October, and I still can't sit in silence at home without checking every sound. For context, I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment. Not a sketchy area, not anything fancy either. Just one of those newer places where all the units have that modern gray and white design and smart home tech built in. Motion lights, smart thermostat, Bluetooth speakers built into the ceiling. I actually liked the smart stuff. It felt futuristic, until it didn't. So it started on a Sunday night. I was cleaning up after dinner, TV playing quietly in the background. That's when I heard something that made me freeze. Connected to Bluetooth device. The voice came from the ceiling speaker, that same robotic female voice you hear when you connect your phone in your car. But I hadn't connected anything. I walked over to the panel near the wall and checked. My phone wasn't synced. Nothing was. It happened again, like 10 seconds later. Connected to Bluetooth device. Then silence. No music, no static. Just that robotic announcement, like someone had synced a device, but nothing played. I thought maybe a neighbor's signal bled into mine, or maybe my settings were open and someone nearby had accidentally connected. So I opened the app and changed the speaker name to something obscure. Disabled pair requests. Figured that'd be the end of it. It wasn't. The next night, same time, I was brushing my teeth when it happened again. Connected to Bluetooth device. This time, the light in the bathroom flickered when it said it. I swear. Just once. A tiny flicker. I walked into the living room, feeling that weird pressure in your ears you get when you're being watched. Then, disconnected. Again, nothing else. Just those two words. I stood there for like 5 full minutes in silence, heart thumping, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. Tuesday night, it escalated. It was just after midnight. I'd fallen asleep on the couch with the TV still on low volume. I woke up to that Bluetooth voice. But this time, it said something different. Connected to Redacted's iPhone. Only, that's not my name. Not even close. I sat bolt upright, grabbed my phone. It was in airplane mode, had been since I laid down. I checked the speaker settings again. It showed an active device. Someone had connected. Right then, a low voice came through the speaker. not robotic, not digital, a real voice. "Are you awake?" I felt like I left my body. I looked around like it was a prank, like I was being filmed. But it was just me, and that voice, dead calm, male, mid-30s maybe. "You left your window unlocked last night." I ran to the front door and locked the deadbolt, even though I was sure I already had. Then I turned off the speakers manually and just sat there, back against the wall, trying not to throw up. I barely slept. The next morning, I told the apartment manager. He said the speakers weren't supposed to pair unless you pressed the physical button on the wall panel, meaning someone would have had to be inside my apartment to do that. He offered to send maintenance to check the system. They came by, tested everything, replaced the wall panel just to be safe, told me it was probably a glitch or maybe interference. That night, I unplugged everything, the whole speaker system. I wanted no part of it. Then I found something I can't explain. Behind my couch, down near the floorboard, was a small black plastic device. Flat, about the size of a car key fob. It wasn't mine. I picked it up and flipped it over. No markings, just a small blinking blue light. It was a Bluetooth transmitter, one of those things people use to hijack signals or send audio to wireless systems. I dropped it, immediately called the police. They came, took it. Said they'd look into it, but that's not the part that still messes with me. 2 nights later, with everything unplugged, every wire pulled, power shut off to the speaker system entirely. I was lying in bed, trying to read, and then I heard it. Not from the speaker. From under the bed, a voice. "You forgot to check under here." I ran. I didn't even take my keys, just sprinted barefoot to the parking lot and called 911 from outside my neighbor's building. They swept my apartment. No one was there. Nothing under the bed. No signs of forced entry. No new devices. I asked about the transmitter they took. Any info? Any prints? They said they never found a transmitter. Said I must be mistaken, but I know what I found. I moved out 3 weeks later. To this day, I can't listen to Bluetooth speakers. I keep my phone in a metal case that blocks signals when I'm home, because I know someone was in my apartment. More than once. And I don't think they ever wanted to rob me. I think they were just practicing. I don't usually post stories like this, but I've never been able to stop thinking about what happened. It wasn't paranormal, it wasn't supernatural, but it was evil, and it was real. Back in 2022, I was between jobs and picking up whatever freelance or gig work I could find. One of the easiest ways to make fast cash was through Craigslist. I know, not always the smartest, but I was broke, and I'd had some decent luck with things like dog walking, moving help, and cleaning jobs. So this one afternoon, I saw a listing that seemed perfect. Help cleaning out my late uncle's condo, $150. Cash. Should only take a few hours. Simple enough. The guy gave a vague address on the north side of town, not far from me, and said to bring gloves if I had them. I emailed, and he responded within the hour. Said his name was Eli and that the place had been sitting empty for a few months. He couldn't be there, but he'd leave the door unlocked, and all I had to do was go in, throw out anything obviously trash, wipe down the surfaces, and he'd come by later to pay me. I know how sketchy that sounds now, but at the time, easy $150. I said sure. The condo complex was older, not run down, but definitely outdated. It was one of those narrow 2-story buildings with stairwells that echo when you walk. I got there around 4 p.m., still daylight, Unit 2B. Sure enough, the door was unlocked. It opened into a mostly empty living room, dusty carpet, beige walls, old furniture covered in sheets. No signs of life. The air had that stale, shut-in smell. I called out just in case. "Hello? Anyone here?" Nothing. So I got to work, picked up some loose trash, tied up a bag of old magazines, wiped the kitchen counters. Then I started down the hallway. There was a bathroom and 2 bedrooms. One looked like a guest room, bare mattress, nothing weird. The other clearly belonged to the uncle. Old recliner in the corner, nightstand with a stained doily on top. Closet door cracked open. That room gave me a weird feeling. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the moment I stepped inside, I felt cold, like something in my chest tightened, not emotional, just wrong. I went to open the window, thinking maybe I just needed some air. That's when I noticed something. On the wall, just to the left of the bed, there were scratch marks, long vertical gouges in the paint. 3 of them. Deep, like someone had dug in with their nails. That's when I should have left, but I didn't. I told myself it was an old man. Maybe he fell. Maybe he tried to pull himself up. Who knows? I kept going. Opened the closet. Saw some suits in dry cleaning bags. On the top shelf, though, I found something strange. A set of keys. Old. Rusty. Not house keys, more like padlock keys, and beside them, an old disposable camera, still in the little CVS sleeve. I stared at it for a second, then put it back. Not my business. It was almost 6:30 by then, sun starting to go down. I texted Eli, letting him know I was about done. He didn't reply. I waited a bit, cleaned a little more, still nothing. So I tried calling him. No answer. I was about to leave when I noticed something else. The closet in the guest room, which I'd already checked earlier, was now open. I remember closing it. I swear I did. I don't leave things open when I'm cleaning. It's a habit. I walked over and pulled it fully open again. Inside on the floor was a duffel bag that hadn't been there before. It was half zipped. Inside gloves, rope, zip ties, a roll of duct tape. I stared at it for what felt like an hour. Then I heard the front door close. Not open, close, like someone had just come inside, quietly. I was frozen. My heart was slamming in my chest. I stepped backward into the hallway, craning my neck toward the front of the condo. No one was there. But something was different. The door wasn't fully closed anymore. It was ajar, like someone had pushed it shut, but didn't let it latch. I grabbed my bag and ran out barefoot, shoes in hand. I didn't even stop to shut the door. I drove to a grocery store parking lot 3 blocks away and sat there with the car running, trying not to throw up. I called Eli again, still nothing. That night, I reported the listing, flagged it, marked it as suspicious. Craigslist took it down within the hour. But here's the part that makes my skin crawl. I checked my outgoing calls the next day. I had called Eli's number twice, but the second call, the one I made from inside the condo, was listed as unknown. No number, just a blank. I tried calling it again. Number not in service. I checked my emails. The listing was gone, but my inbox showed that I had never received a reply. No message, no Eli, just an empty chain, as if no one had ever responded to me at all. I don't know what that place was. I don't know who Eli was, or who came in that door, or what would have happened if I had been slower to run. But ever since then, I don't take jobs off Craigslist. Not because they're dangerous, but because somebody out there is using them to find people who will walk into empty homes and not ask questions. This happened when I was 14. My parents had to fly out of state for a funeral and couldn't take me with them, so I stayed with my grandma for a few days. I'd never really spent time alone at her house before. We'd always visited as a family, holidays, birthdays, but never overnight, just me. The house itself was old, like creaky floorboards, floral wallpaper, faint smell of mothballs kind of old. She'd lived in it since the 60s. Big 2-story farmhouse on a quiet road outside a small town. The kind of place where the second the sun sets, everything outside goes pitch black. No streetlights, just trees. When we pulled up, it was already dark. My grandma met us at the door and gave me a hug. Told my parents not to worry. I'd be just fine. That sentence would rattle around in my head for a long time after. She showed me to the guest room upstairs, which I don't think had been used in years. It had this heavy wooden bed frame, lace curtains, and one of those old porcelain dolls sitting on a shelf by itself. I made the mistake of asking about the doll, and she just said, "Oh, she's been there longer than me. Don't move her." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Anyway, the first night wasn't bad. Bit creaky, bit drafty, but nothing too weird. I stayed up reading on my phone until maybe midnight, then fell asleep. I woke up to the sound of footsteps, not heavy ones, light, like bare feet on wood, slow, deliberate. They were coming from the hallway right outside my door. I sat up in bed, completely still. The footsteps stopped. I figured it was my grandma going to the bathroom, but I didn't hear a toilet flush or a door shut. Just silence. Then something else. Knocking. 3 slow knocks on the wall behind the headboard. Not the door. The wall. I didn't move. Just sat there in the dark, holding my breath. It knocked again, this time on the wall beside the bed. I flicked on the bedside lamp. No one there, no sound. I got up and checked the hallway. Empty, lights off. My grandma's room was at the other end of the hall, door shut. Next morning, I asked if she'd been up during the night. She said no. I asked if she'd ever heard knocking in the house. She paused, then said, "Sometimes old houses talk." That night, I made sure the lamp stayed on. I had headphones in, trying to drown out the creepy silence. Around 2 a.m., I pulled them off and sat up. Something felt off. The air was cold, like my breath was fogging. The window was shut. The vent wasn't blowing. And then I noticed it. The porcelain doll was on the floor, face down. I hadn't touched it. I didn't even go near the shelf. I slowly walked over, picked it up and put it back. I was shaking. Just as I turned around, the lamp flickered off. Pitch black. Then from behind me, a whisper, so soft I wasn't sure if I heard it at all. "Why'd you move her?" I spun around and turned the light back on. Thank God it worked. Doll was back on the shelf, nothing behind me. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I asked Grandma if she ever heard voices. She got real quiet, didn't look at me, then said, "You know, that room wasn't always a guest room. It used to be my sister's." I asked what happened to her. She just said, "She died in that bed, long time ago." Didn't give details, just left the room. I begged my parents to pick me up early, but they couldn't get back until the next night, so I had to stay one more night in that house. I made a plan. Sleep downstairs on the couch seemed safer, less watched. I told Grandma, and she didn't argue, just said, "Make sure you lock the upstairs door." Upstairs had a little half door at the top of the steps. Never saw it closed before. That night, I laid on the couch with the TV on low, trying to stay awake. At 1:43 a.m., the TV screen glitched, flickered into static for a second, then back to normal. I muted it. Heard something above me, footsteps, fast ones, pacing, in circles. I sat up, staring at the ceiling. Then, bang, 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 something slammed into the floor above me, over and over, like furniture being shoved. Then it stopped. I tiptoed to the bottom of the stairs and looked up. The upstairs door was open. I swear I locked it. I know I did. And from the top of the stairs, I heard it again. "Why'd you move her?" Software. Angry. Then the sound of something running, fast, across the floor. I ran out the front door barefoot and waited outside until sunrise. Didn't sleep. Didn't go back in. My parents picked me up later that morning. I never told them everything, just that I didn't sleep well. I haven't been back to my grandma's house since. Last I heard, she moved into assisted living, and the house was sold. But the weirdest part? A few weeks ago, I looked up the listing. The Zillow photos were still up. In the last photo, the one of the upstairs guest room, you can see the shelf. And on it, no doll, just a tiny, perfect handprint on the wall behind it.